When you think of Maseratis, you think of sports cars, stylish saloons and a racing heritage. So why has Maserati gone down the SUV route? For the same reason Porsche, Bentley and Jaguar have. SUVs are the rage today and they make lots of money for manufacturers. But does a Maserati SUV work? Well, we're going to take a first drive in Maserati's first ever SUV, the Levante, to see if it's worthy of that illustrious Maserati badge. Well, there's a lot of Maserati in the way it looks. Yup, it's got an SUV's upright proportions, but the flanks are nice and muscular, and there are lots of swoopy curves which hint at the sports car pedigree. And you can't miss the trident on the very Maserati grille. Now, does it drive like a Maserati should? Now this 3-litre turbo diesel develops 275 horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque. Now that is a lot, but when you consider that the Levante weighs about 2.2 tons, performance isn't earth-shattering, to be honest. It's good, it's brisk, but again, you've got cars which are much quicker, diesel SUVs which are much quicker. But what you don't have in any other SUV is the sound. Now for a diesel, this engine is just absolutely amazing. It just sounds brilliant. It's got a lovely little throaty roar about it. It's not got any diesel drone. It's so petrol-like in its response, its nature. I really think it's the character of the engine which really is the best bit of the Levante. This is the best diesel engine note I've ever heard. I mean, it just sounds fantastic. It sounds like a petrol. It's got a lovely throaty roar to it. I'm putting down the window so you can hear that. Woo! It really sounds lovely, and in fact, it even revs like a petrol. You don't have that sudden mid-range surge. There's a more linearity to it. So really the character of this engine, really one of the highlights of the Levante. But what I really miss are paddle shifters, because this engine is so free to rev and it's good in manual mode. You automatically go behind the steering wheel and what you end up doing is changing the radio station. So manual operation is only by a push-pull on this, which is it's pretty good, but really paddles is something you really want. What you also want is something that handles well, especially from a car with such an illustrious lineage. But it's not a car, it's an SUV, which means it's tall and heavy. Now, how does that feel? Well, this car might weigh 2.2 tons, but all that weight is pretty well distributed. So I do like the way the Levante handles, because it's pretty well balanced. It turns into corners quite well, not much understeer. I think the only letdown really is the ride, because the air suspension really isn't fully resolved. Sharper bumps they filter through, and at speed, even in the stiffest sport setting, there still is a bit of float. It's all too easy to get caught up in the driving experience, so before I forget, let's take a look at the practical side. That's why you're buying an SUV after all, isn't it? It's a fairly spacious and practical cabin and comfortable for 4 adults and their luggage. Equipment levels are decent and the fit and finish is good, but nothing exceptional. What does set the Levante apart from other similarly priced SUVs, however, is that typically Italian flair with which the cabin is designed. It's also quite highly customizable, with a choice of wood grain and other trims, as well as real silk inlays from Italian fashion house Ermenegildo Zegna. Well, it's hard to justify the asking price of nearly 1.5 crores for a car that really doesn't excel in one particular area. So whether it's space, practicality or ride and handling, rivals do it better. So then why should you buy the Levante? Well, it's got some things going for it. It's distinctive, It oozes Italian flair and is really very high on emotion. And to be honest, those are the only reasons why you should consider one.
इसी कभी न रुकने वाले जुनून को रफ्तार देता है सर्वो वर्ल्ड क्लास लुब्रिकेंट्स।